Hello everyone, I'm back for another installation of Rants. I'm continuing the topic of things I learned my first year in tech. For those of you who don't know me or know anything about me, I was a career transitioner. I graduated with a degree in government and a secondary in FM, and I ended up leaving my job in I worked at a startup and did very startup-y things, and left my job and moved to LA and did a boot camp and learned to code. So this has been my first year working in tech. It's been a really awesome experience. I've learned a lot of things, and I'm just walking through some of my biggest lessons. One of the biggest lessons I learned is that you need to be independent. Like INDEPEDN. Anyway, I messed up the spelling, but literally, being independent is so crucial to having a successful career in the tech industry, but particularly in engineering. I saw a meme recently that was talking about most of a dev's day is spent 90% of it is spent looking online for the answer. And I'm not a dev, actually. I'm a release engineer, so it's a very different role, but the same thing applies to your mindset in engineering. Part of, I think, what being an engineer means is that you're going out, you're seeking answers to problems. There are some things that I don't know how to do on my own. I've never worked in tech. I've never worked in this industry. I don't know what that thing is. Somebody just said blah, blah, blah in a meeting. But before I go to my manager, I actually had to learn this lesson. Before I go to my manager, I'm on Google, if I have a friend or a mentor that I can talk to, I'm hitting up a friend or a mentor. I'm trying to hit all the avenues before I go to the person who's deciding about my career trajectory, how well I'm doing and how independent I am. I'm going to exhaust all my options before talking to her. And this thing was hard for me because, let me just give you a little bit of background on my personality. I said this last time, I'm a talker, bro. I'm a talker. And when I talk to people, I walk through my whole thought process when I'm discussing things. So when I'm at home and I'm asking a friend for advice, honestly, sis, I might not even be ready for your advice. I'm walking you through every single scenario I've thought of that could possibly be true and whatever. And then I pause and I wait for you to respond. But in a work setting, that's not okay. And I do not do that at work, because you always want to ensure, particularly in relationships with managers who are judging the outcome of your work. I try to keep that as professional as possible. I have a really outgoing personality. That's outgoing personality, not extroverted. Outgoing though. Personality that makes me seem approachable, and I always want to talk to my teammates, and I'm the person in the rooms talking about oh my gosh guys, did you see this thing, trying to make jokes. However, when it comes to job things, I want to make sure that I'm bringing my best to my boss. I'm bringing my best to my team. I'm making them feel like I did all the work here. And then now it's time for us to collaborate and work together to decide on what's the best action moving forward for this project that we're working on that I was trying to take ownership of. And I think that's the thing about ownership, it's responsibility. And ownership outside of let's say you're owning a project, that's cool, but ownership of your career trajectory, your success, you are doing everything that you can to find the answers. And that just makes a really inquisitive, smart person successful as an engineer. I think those traits are super important. So there are two things to that. One is that you should be going out of your way to seek all of the answers and exhausting all options. And two, you should be considering when you need to do that. So sure, I'm early on in my career, but moving forward in my career as a release engineer, I am not going to spend my life trying to look up things that I'm never gonna know about Android Studio and Android development, because that's just not something that's within my scope of mind. I probably wouldn't even understand it if I looked it up. You kind of have to have that balance and saying this is when I should go out and seek information. I can own this thing. This is within the scope of my knowledge. Looking here and there will actually get me to the answer really quickly. This is the moment where I'm hey, let me ask this person, what do I need to know about this thing? What's important for me to learn? Should I go and look anything up on my own and bring it back? work with the people that you're working with, even your manager, to understand like what is the expectation of the scope of your knowledge. Because like if you're not an Android dev, you're not an Android dev. So don't try to be an Android dev in the moment when the project needs to get done quicker. That's not your responsibility. So essentially, like, you don't want to have any gaps on things that are like obvious answers. And my mentor literally said this to me. He was like, always keep in mind, like, never have a question for something that has an obvious answer. That just like doesn't look good on you. And that's like something that once he said that, I was like taking that to heart. Like, definitely want to think about that and apply that to my working strategy. Like, what can I do for myself? And I be in work like I'm an independent woman. Hey sis, INDEPENDENT. Yeah, that what that. Ha. Anyway, that's my tip for the day. That's my rant for the day. Let me know. I was supposed to say comment. Like, don't comment, like, subscribe. Like, I don't know why I said that. Anyway, that's my rant. Check out the blog. Thanks.